I started out like I knocked doors for 8 years. I did door-to-door sales, and so, you know, those people that you don't listen to or you slam the door on or you pretend not to be home and, you wonder why they're bugging you? Yeah, that was me. So, did that for a long time, and it was a grind, but, like, it taught me a ton, and it also taught me I don't wanna be someone else that's been in the industry for 10 plus years that always says, "Hey, this is my last year. This is my last year. This is my last year." But they can't ever leave because they have nothing to fall back on. And so that was kind of like the inspiration, more or less, to get more into real estate and the passive income side of things so that I could live life on my own terms and I could quit a job when I want to quit and be done when I want to be done. So this kind of gave me my foundation to actually do that and be smart with my money. And I own a company called Real Estate Investing School. So you guys are in the right spot. I love like people that are intentional about taking a shortcut, like a legal shortcut, and you guys are doing that. Like you're saving time, money, by getting in a program that's not costing you money, but it's actually making you money, right? Because you're eliminating the time and the mistakes that you would make if you're doing it on your own. I love the concept of dreaming bigger faster, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And that's kind of what led into doing this first tiny home resort project, just because I was at a spot where I had bought this condo and I was using it as an Airbnb, and it was a small, like one bedroom place, and it started doing really well. And so the thought process was, hey, how do I go like double down on this? And how do I go grow by multiplication and not just grow by addition by picking up, you know, these different condos or these different homes? And so I'm like, well, what if it was a tiny home? It would actually cost less money because it's smaller and less square footage. But I feel like people would want to stay there more than they would want to stay in a, you know, building with a lot of other units next to it. So that's what led into that. How do I go faster on the process? These three things, money, mentorship, and motivation, are so important when it comes to real estate. But most people think it's just this money piece that's the most important, right? Like you need money to make money. And you guys probably already know by now that that's not the case. And so I think like a lot of times people will double down and they're always waiting until they have enough money before they can get into stuff like this and do things like this. Whereas in reality, the motivation and the mentorship, I would argue, are actually way more important. And if you have two of these, you don't need the third one, right? So you guys are in a perfect spot. Obviously, you're learning about all these things and you obviously have the motivation or you probably wouldn't be here. So a couple of things really quick. Why tiny homes? So the first thing is like the vibe or like overall experience. The cool thing, like we're talking about with the return side of things, because they're less square footage, like they don't cost as much to build. Along with that, you can also rent it out for more money if you do it the right way. And you can have a higher occupancy if you do it the right way as well, just because of the overall vibe and the experience that you create, right? If a family has an option to, you know, stay at a hotel versus staying at this awesome like experience with a loft and a tiny home and all the cool things that come with that, they're going to choose that, right? So this has been really fun. You're creating that vibe, you're creating that experience for other people. The returns, we talked about that a little bit, just a little money in, a lot of money out. And I'll show you how I structured some of this specifically on like the deal structure side of things that made it make sense. And then it's a lifestyle filter. Like I already talked a little about being a lifestyle entrepreneur, but for me, a lot of people will first look at a deal or they'll set their real estate goals based on, hey, does this fit like with my money filter, right? Or hey, does this fit with my return filter, whatever it is. For me, like I try to fit everything in this lifestyle filter, meaning the purpose of a filter is you put something in and something else comes out, right? A lot of times it's like an oil filter. There's dirty oil, right? It's going to catch anything and it only lets the good stuff through. And so for me, it's been so important. Like, hey, first, let me design my life. Let me design my schedule. Let me design all the things that are important to me. And part of that, like for example, we're doing a family reunion in June at this tiny home resort. That's July. It's over 4th of July. And it's all like my family. And that was like on my vision board for so long, right? Like I want to create this cool resort, have this cool thing where my family can come and enjoy this. And I can be the one that was able to provide this type of an experience. And so it first went through this lifestyle filter. And then next came like, cool, it's a really good return and it works for what I want it to work with. Prefab, so to speak. This was the foundations. Pretty much they run all of the electrical, all of the plumbing, the water to this foundation. They pour that and then they build the homes off site, like in a warehouse. And basically, because they're able to do this, two things, like one, it saves some money because they can use machines to build it all really, really fast. And then two, in places that are a little bit harder to get to and get contractors to where they charge a lot more money usually because it's maybe up in the mountains or a difficult spot, you can save a lot of that because you can finish a bunch of it inside of a building and then just bring it up there. So for this one, the way that it works, and on phase two, we actually we're doing a little bit different where they'll actually finish everything in there. This one was too tall to be able to ship down the road. So instead of moving it like you would, you know, a modular home, I guess, what they did is they put it all together. They put the windows on, as you can tell, they put the siding on, and then they actually take it apart and they stack it. So all the walls are stacked and the roof is stacked. and they strap it down and then they drive it up. They put it all together in a couple of days, where essentially they're just lifting all the pieces up, almost like a puzzle, putting it all in, and then they're putting the roofs on. So after that, the kit that I got with these guys, it came with like the flooring, it came with the cabinets, all that stuff. And then we had someone come, and the rest was in that kit. So then I had a contractor that finished the insides of them once they were all set up and the outside looked completely done. And yeah, like essentially what happened was I found this land. It was off market for sale by owner. I talked to the city because I'd wanted to do this tiny home idea concept for a long time. Hey, would you guys approve something like this? Yes, if it was zoned in this type of zoning. So then I started looking. And long story short, when I presented this to an investor, I have one partner, we own it 50-50, and he put in almost all the money. Now, part of that, because the deal was so like good and made enough sense numbers wise, with these 3 lots, I just said, hey, I want to keep one of the lots. Like, just so you know, like, you can do this deal or don't do this deal. It's up to you, but like, it's for these 2 lots. It's not for this third one. And the numbers made more than enough sense for him to do it just on these 2 lots. And so essentially, he put up, at the time, was like all the money to buy the land, which was cool. Like I remember like him wiring me over the money, and we didn't have anything signed or anything. And I was like, oh, this is sweet. Like, this is awesome. Like how it all happened and came together. But what's cool about that is now this third lot over here is paid off, right? Because he paid for all that for these 2 things. So now I can leverage this. I own this 100%, and I can leverage this being paid off to the bank for my down payment for all the construction. So essentially, it's allowing me to build these other units, which I'll have to show you the design on these ones another day. But like, essentially, there's an upstairs and a downstairs. It's all combined, but you can also separate them if you want to rent them out separate, or if there's a big group, it'll sleep like 20 something people.
Such so, a structure, keeping the one lot.
Yeah, like it worked out really well. And that's the thing. Like, if the deal is good enough and there's enough meat on it and it's a quality enough deal, then like if he would have said no, I would have found somebody else that would have been all for it, right? And they would have been excited to do it. And reality is I probably could have done it with just this one lot, because the price we got all the lots for in 6 months, like it was worth twice as much. Part of that's because of the discount. Part of that is just kind of get lucky the way the market works out sometimes, but it was off market and I hustled to find it. And so he was happy about all that. Even before we started building, he had a return on his money. Yeah. So these ones, like I said, with the fact that we had to finish the inside of them still on site. Now there's pros and cons to that. Like one of them is it took longer, to be honest. Like, it would have been way better if we could have had the insides completely done, completely finished, and just dropped them on like ready to go, plug and play. Because like I said, we added that loft. These ones weren't like that. And so it almost turned it from being like a modular home more to like closer to like a stick built, right? Even though a lot of it was built off site, the way that a lot of like the inspections worked were almost as if it was being built on site, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the way it works for the ones that are completely finished, there's really 2 things. One of them, they sell a lot of these models like with wheels or without wheels. Depending on where you're at and where you're building, there's pros and cons to that, right? One of them is just being able to be mobile and being able to move it. Sometimes like the zoning, like here in Hawaii, for example, you can get away with a lot more if you have something on wheels because it's not permanent, right? So you can, rent it out, whatever, because it's not another permanent structure. But like in Bryan Head, where I built these ones, one of the requirements is it had to be on a foundation. That's why we did this, right? It had to be on a foundation. That's just one of the requirements for the city. I think they just don't want a lot of like homes with wheels popping up.
Yeah, what I have heard is if you can get a crane to lift it and set it on a slab, it's not a modular home. If you roll the same house in on wheels, even if you remove them, the city can't get past the fact that it's a modular home. That may have been Juan and I talking about that, but yeah, like it's mostly has to do with the perception of your city staff.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And I know like there's different, talking to like the owner of this company, there's different like inspections that they'll pass based on which one it is as well, right? Because there's different things with the frames and all that. But that's one of the reasons why on this like phase 2, like all of these that you can see, all of these are brought in. Like these 7, 8, 9, 10 right here are actually this model right here because they sit up on that hill. So there's like a rooftop deck. But this whole thing is not on wheels, but they're bringing it in on a trailer and then they're craning it onto the foundation. It's already pre-built. But this is the one I'm doing right now. And it's in Virgin, Utah. This is an actual picture from the property. So really cool, just like red rock views and beautiful area. But this is 21 units total that we're doing. One way that I'm using to kind of maximize the return is I have 2 bathroom houses. So there's 4 bathroom showers right here, 2 bathroom showers right here. These ones all have bathrooms and kitchenettes, these 3 on each side. So 6 total. This is a big dome in the middle for like events, weddings, stuff like that. We got a pickleball basketball court. And we're ready to break ground on this hopefully in the next like month and a half. What I was to say with this is the way that I kind of structured this one is very similar. And the cool thing with these is like this whole thing costs like $8,000. Like they're not expensive. It's just like a frame foundation or a frame kind of structure, steel structure that's got like a 60-year warranty. And then there's this canvas that goes on the top. You can add insulation on the inside. And, just that concept of, cool, how do I be into it where it's still a good quality, feels good, but I can rent it out for a lot more and not be in over my head. Now the ones on like the inside are costing a little bit more, and it's actually that same company, Zip Kits, that's doing the bathroom houses, like the modular bathroom houses, and then they're doing these modular like cubes, right? So they're really cool. One side's a little kitchenette, one side the bed goes against, the other side is the door to the bathroom, and then there's a loft up top that fits a queen bed. So kind of cool there. I put the whole deal together. Didn't put any of my own money in. The land was like 550 or something like that. I own half of it, right? I didn't pay for a dime of that. And then this one's cool because the numbers are very predictable, just because of the area and a lot of the resorts in the area, that I know a lot of the resort owners, but you kind of know roughly what stuff's going to rent for per night and occupancy. And this is on a fairly conservative side on what it should project and what it looks like. But once again, you take out a lot of the expenses, divide that in half. And this is, projected, but pretty conservative. This is what my cut should be after everything each month on this one project.